Welcome to the third Candidates Forum. I am Janet Wright, and I'm a member of the AAUW Morgan Hill, and will be the facilitator for this evening. Before I go on, if any of you have questions to submit for the candidates, please write them on the cards available and hand them to Jenny Redfern right now. It is quite possible that we may not have time for all the questions. I invite you to stay after the official Q&A to discuss any questions you may have for the candidates. And our candidates for tonight are Larry Carr, mayoral candidate; Rich Constantine, mayoral candidate; Yvonne Martinez Beltran, city council manager; Marilyn Libres, and John McKay. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, candidates Brian Sutherland and Mark Turner will not be able to join us tonight, but they have sent in recorded videos for our viewing. At this time, I would like to thank the City of Morgan Hill for allowing us to present the forum at this site. Thank you to Amanda Castaneda and her assistant Kim Mancera with the City Clerk's Office for all their help. Thank you also to Vanessa Alnader, a student at Sobrato, who has been helping out tonight. Thanks also go to our tech person, Sergio. There is water and coffee on the table by the door for everyone, set up by Amanda and Kim. This forum is sponsored by Leadership Morgan Hill and the Morgan Hill branch of American Association of University Women. To tell us a little bit about Leadership Morgan Hill, here is Jason Amezcua.
Hi, everybody. I think the mic's about to die, so I'm going to project my voice, and hopefully everybody can hear me. I'd like to start off by asking everyone in the room, would you please stand if you're a graduate of Leadership Morgan Hill? Awesome. I say graduate, thank you very much. I do say graduate because we just graduated our class of 2022, so there's some brand new graduates, only a couple weeks past, so congratulations to them. And I have the privilege of introducing our organization, Leadership Morgan Hill, which I am on the board of directors for. Our goal for our organization is to cultivate leadership and engagement for a better Morgan Hill. And we do that by following three very core tenets, which is to inspire, connect, and serve.
Thank you. It was blinking at me, so. And so our Leadership Morgan Hill is, we do this through a 9-month training program created to inspire future leaders to community service. A program, by the way, which was founded in 1995. So we've been around for a little while, hence the number of folks that are still involved. Even more people that still aren't involved, I'll talk about that in a minute. Our 9-month leadership program is designed to provide participants with in-depth knowledge of the local, political, economic, and government structures of our community. Our program is actually led by Sheila Murphy, who is our moderator tonight. She serves as the facilitator for our class every year, and she's a great leader and does great with our students. And our students will, our recent graduates will definitely tell you that as well. So if this does sound like a great organization that you'd like to be a part of, then I invite you to, and you have not yet participated in Leadership Morgan Hill, I recommend that you speak to one of those lovely folks that just stood up, ask them about their experience, and then put your name down so we might have you on our list to recruit you for a future best class ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Suman Ganapathy, president of AAUW Morgan Hill, is unable to be present this evening, so I will tell you a little bit about the organization. The American Association of University Women is a nonpartisan and nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing gender equity and economic security, which is another word of saying education. We have been around nationally since 1881 and are celebrating 141 years this year. Our Morgan Hill branch has been around since 1981 and celebrating 41 years with members encompassing 3 generations. We organize the well-known annual Morgan Hill Wildflower Run, and 100% of the proceeds from it funds scholarships for local school and college students, STEM summer camp for middle schoolers, leadership training, programs to help with gender equity, and community grants as well. Education, both for us and our community, is important to us. It is the great equalizer. And we frequently host speakers and panels, and of course, these vital candidates forums to help you make educated decisions while voting this November. Now back to the forum. Tonight's timekeepers are Yvonne Randolph from AAUW and Jason Amezqua from Leadership Morgan Hill. Tonight's moderator is Sheila Murphy. She will introduce our candidates and explain the time limits for opening remarks, questions, and closing. Sheila?
Thank you, Janet. So our candidates have been introduced. I do want to make sure it's okay if I address you each by your first names when we ask questions, so everyone's, okay, thank you. Wonderful. So for this evening, respectful behavior is expected of everyone. All candidates will give their opening remarks at the beginning of the evening and their closing remarks at the end of the evening. We do have 2 by video. Opening remarks are 2 minutes each. Closing remarks are also 2 minutes each. Some questions will be specific to the mayoral candidates. We've placed both of them on this side. Some to city council, and we've placed the 3 candidates that are here on this side. Some will be addressed to both. Each question will have a 2-minute maximum for the first answering. Then 3 others will have 1 minute to either rebut or add to. Also, prior to starting this evening, the candidates chose a number, and we put them in a randomizer. And so we'll ask questions according to this randomizer in the order that they pop up on here. So it's all things are created equal for everyone up here. The electronic timekeeping will be shown on the monitor for the candidates. Green will start, it will start green. Is that the green? Is that the green color? Yes. Okay. Okay. Then it'll turn yellow when you have 30 seconds, and then when it turns red, you must stop. And we do have control over your microphones, so you will stop. At 8 o'clock, we will take a 2-minute stretch break because it does tend to get a little long and heavy. So we want to give you just a very quick break to stretch your legs. So again, each candidate will have 1 minute to follow up after the initial person answers for 2 minutes. Clear as mud. Okay. So we're going to get started with the 2 candidates that have their opening remarks via video. So our first one is Brian Sutherland, and he is running for City Council.
Hello, my name is Brian Sutherland, and I'm running for Morgan Hill City Council District B. I've been married for 27 years to my beautiful wife, Laura, and together we've raised 3 sons who are now 26, 22, and 20. I'm the CEO of a small business called Vision Guitar, which I started back in 2009 from the ground up. Today, we have 8 employees, a 4,000 square foot facility, and we're ranked among the top guitar stores in the nation. For the past 22 years, I've also served as a pastor at Gateway City Church. I've been employed there for 29 years, and I've served in capacities of business, administration, working with youth, working with young adults. My platform includes public safety and rebuilding community trust. I will work to restore unity and decorum in the council. I will respectfully listen to all sides of a given issue and earn the trust of my fellow council members. I believe unity is a key to moving forward effectively as a council and as a community. I will ensure that public safety for our Morgan Hill residents is top priority. I believe in the safety and welfare of everyone in our community and will work to that end. Growing our local economy is also key to meeting our public safety goals. By focusing on the development of small to medium-sized businesses, along with fiscal responsibility, we can meet these goals. I will resist state-mandated growth and endorse development that fits Morgan Hill while helping to preserve our beautiful open spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I should have mentioned that Brian is running for District B against the incumbent, Yvonne Martinez Beltran. And next, we're going to hear from Mark Turner.
Hi, I'm Mark Turner, and I'm running for mayor of Morgan Hill. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I'm not feeling well, and out of an abundance of caution, thought it might be best to avoid contact with the public at this point. I'd like to thank the AAUW and Leadership Morgan Hill for putting this event on. I was looking forward to the opportunity of having a spirited conversation with my opponents. We're facing some serious issues in Morgan Hill. We have an abundance of residential growth. We have a lack of infrastructure to support that growth. We have a rise in crime, an underfunded and understaffed police department, a lack of water, and other issues. But with these challenges come great opportunity, and I have a plan to address these issues. And I know with the public's help and support, we can make this happen. I want to work closely with the council and with the community to increase funding to our police department. I want to make sure that we are able to work with Sacramento and get local control back. I want to work with officials up and down the state in order to have that conversation with Sacramento. I want to be able to make sure that we have the ability to get better paying jobs here in Morgan Hill, and also want to make sure to work with Visit Morgan Hill to take advantage of our opportunities around the area of recreation and health and wellness. I look forward to your support and hope to have your vote.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to begin with Larry Carr and go around, and then we'll do the randomizer when we do the actual questions. So go ahead, Larry.
Right, thank you. Good evening and thank you, and my apologies to the people sitting back here who can't exactly see me while I'm speaking tonight. I want to thank AUW and Leadership Morgan Hill and the City of Morgan Hill for sponsoring this forum and the rest of the series of these forums. I know it takes a lot of work to put these on, and so I really appreciate and value the volunteers who are working hard to put these together. I'm Larry Carr. I'm a lifelong Morgan Hill resident, a parent, a volunteer, a nonprofit board member. I'm your neighbor. I'm someone with deep experience in politics, in public service, in making public policy, and in life. I'm not here to tell you how perfect I am. No, far from it. In fact, I know I'm a stronger person for knowing my shortcomings. For many of you, you know that I served on the city council in the past. In fact, I served during a time of great progress in Morgan Hill. We led with community engagement. We sought out thoughts and opinions. We heard questions and asked questions, and we developed community-centric plans. We built wonderful community facilities, a library, cultural centers, recreation centers. We built a new police station and provided for a modern, efficient police department. We built a new council chambers that you're in tonight to better facilitate community engagement. And we protected an enormous amount of open space and agricultural uses. But perhaps the moments that I am most proud of are the times when we came together as a council and set aside our differences. We found compromise and common ground in order to make a better Morgan Hill. We created a positive working environment here at City Hall. We became the envy of Silicon Valley. I'm looking forward to answering your questions tonight and getting into a range of issues. Campaigns should be about ideas, and tonight is all about your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Rich?
Great, thank you very much. And you're going to hear a very common theme of thanking AUW and Leadership Morgan Hill for putting this on tonight. And I also want to thank all of you for coming to listen to us and hear our ideas for Morgan Hill. I also want to put a special thank you to my family, my wife Andrea and my daughter Emma. If it's not for them, I would not be here, and I really appreciate and love your support. Thank you very much. You know, as you'll hear tonight, in many different ways, we all love Morgan Hill. I was reminded recently that I started my public service as a crossing guard back in elementary school. And then I continued my public service as a firefighter for the city of San Jose. And I was first elected to city council in 2010. I served 2 terms as a council member, and I was first elected to mayor in 2018. And one of the things, the common themes of my both candidates when I was running for council and when I was running for mayor was that I thought Morgan Hill was going in the right direction. I thought that when I ran for council and was a top vote getter, and I thought that when I first ran for mayor. And I think that today. Morgan Hill has been kicked in the teeth. We've had COVID, we've had civil unrest, and we've had a myriad of unsavory, shall I say, issues that permeate the internet. That is not what Morgan Hill is. Morgan Hill is what's in this room right now. Morgan Hill is what I have been the honor and the pleasure of being the mayor of. Morgan Hill is a resilient town. You know, we all talk about the Morgan Hill feel. The Morgan Hill feel is not a building, it's not a restaurant, it's all of us. And I am, again, so proud to be mayor, and I'm ready to answer your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, of course.
I didn't break it. It wasn't me.
I don't know. Oh, you push it when you're ready. Okay, we'll move on to City Council candidate, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. This is a great moment for me. I haven't been on this dais in nearly 3 years, and it feels really wonderful to be back and to see all of you. My name is Yvonne Martinez Beltran, and I've been serving as your councilwoman for almost the past 4 years, and it has been one of the most engaging and greatest honors that I've had to date. I'm a mother of twins and a toddler who's sitting right up front there. Oh, there you go. I am a business owner of La Catrina. I am the councilwoman who's been sitting here for 4 years, and I was raised in Morgan Hill, and I was actually raised in District B. This is my hometown, my home turf. My family's been here over 40 years, and I attended all of the Morgan Hill public schools, graduated from Live Oak High School, go Acorns, and earned, then I went down to San Diego, got my undergraduate, moved on and went to NYU and studied urban planning and economic development. And I returned to be on the Planning Commission, and that's when I ran when the mayor, actually his district, he ran for mayor, and I saw B had opened up. So I'm running for re-election because I care about public safety, and I care about preserving the essence of and securing the economic strength for Morgan Hill and the direction of Morgan Hill for us today and for our children in the future. My policy leads with inclusion, with equity, and engaging community, including seniors, families, children, youth, and representing and collaborating with everyone. I'm committed to our public safety and have ensured that our deferred unfunded liabilities have been addressed and talked about. I've worked tirelessly through COVID, and there is much more work to do, and that's why I'm here again for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Marilyn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you here and those of you watching at home, live streaming, thank you again. My name is Marilyn Liebers, and I am running for City Council in District D. I previously served 8 years from 2008 2008 to 2016 on the city council when it was district-wide voting. I came on the council in 2008 when we were in the middle of somewhat of a depression in the country, if you remember that. The stock market was plunging and we were doing layoffs at city. I was kind of like a deer in headlights at that time. But through the guidance of the staff and my own perseverance to get through it, we brought Morgan Hill back to the vulnerable city that it was before that. So I'm excited to run again. I have seen so much going on in the 4 years that I haven't been on council that I'd like to get back in and bring some civility to the council, some more encouragement to our community to participate, and also I want to include diversity and inclusion for everybody in our community, whether they're voters or not. So I think there's a lot we can work on as a council, and I want to see that council have the same positive vibes that we did when I was on 4 years ago. And we didn't always agree, but when we walked out the door, we were friends, and I don't see that anymore. So I'd like to see that continue once I'm back on council. I'm a 46-year resident. I love Morgan Hill, and I'm not going anywhere. This is my home.
Thank you, Marilyn. And we'll wrap up with John.
These things are a little sensitive, aren't they? It's been a while. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, AAUW and Leadership Morgan Hill. I am a very proud alumni of their organization, and I think that you have helped develop some great leaders in our community here. You see many of them out here tonight. I've lived here for 22 years. I've lived here with my family. We had 2 dogs. We're down to 1 now. And the last 12 years, I've been very involved in the community. I've had the opportunity to work with some great organizations, but one of the highlights has been being on the Planning Commission, getting to know the community, getting to know how city government works. So through the 8 years that I spent just on the Planning Commission, then the last 4 years on the City Council, I learned a little bit about how things work. And I want to tell you that this city does things well. We should be very proud. I think this city is headed in the right direction. The road gets bumpy sometimes, but I think you'll know that we always rebound. We've taken on some incredible challenges here with, the economy and also the pandemic, and we actually came out better than most any community around because we have great people working together. We have great staff. We have great people on the dais. We have a great community that steps up to remind us that we're doing a good job, and sometimes say that maybe we're not doing what they want. So we have to listen to everybody. What I want to say is that we're all going to probably talk about the same issues because they're universal. We are going to talk about public safety. We are going to talk about growth, which might be residential or business and commercial industrial. We're going to talk about economic development, which drives this community. It's what pays the bills. We really need that strong economic development. And we're going to talk about all the things that we've learned to care about, that we share the concerns about, and I hope that we have some really good questions and we get some really good, deep answers tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to get started with the questions. Some of these questions will be directed to one or the other, but this particular question is directed to all of you. Public safety is the top priority in Morgan Hill's 2022-2023 city budget. What would you reduce or increase in the city budget to address public safety? And this question first will be answered by Marilyn.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, just press and leave.
You can turn them on here.
It turns off, okay. Sorry, let me start again. I personally serve on the board of directors of CLEF, which stands for Community Law Enforcement Foundation. And we subsidize things that the police department don't have in their budget. And we lovingly do that. We listen to the police. They give us a report every month of how we can help, and we fundraise for that. But I think those things, most of those things, should be included in our budget, in their budget. And I know whoever is chief, it has to go before, the budget processing. He struggles. Is it administration? Is it patrol officers? Do we need more detectives? There's a myriad of departments within the police department. So I'd like to continue to monitor that particular situation as to the needs, since I know what they are, and how we can incorporate those in the budget. I think that would be beneficial for them, and then we can start, as the community law enforcement, can start giving them some of the more fluffy type things that they need versus things they need, technical stuff that we're subsidizing. So we have to take a strong look at that part of the budget and decide how we're going to change things so the police is fully funded in all they need. They have been without a full staff for a number of years, but have just recently, in this last budget cycle, gotten the money for 2 full-time police officers. And we also have now a mental health, I guess you'd call them like a social service person, that is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and on call to handle domestic violence, to handle anything like a person who is on drugs and needs mental counseling. So we're expanding our PD in just great ways, and I want to continue to help that. I am all for public safety.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. And then same question will go to you, Larry. Public safety is the top priority in Morgan Hill's 2022-23 city budget. What would you reduce or increase in the city budget to address public safety?
Yeah, great, thank you, great question. So the question is, what would I reduce or increase in order to keep public safety number one? I think we need to take a good look at our public safety budget, and are we using it in smart ways? Are we using technology? Are we using community policing in the right ways to be able to cover Morgan Hill? And I would expand upon the unhoused specialists and the street team so that we actually have the ability to work with people who need help rather than just always sending a law enforcement officer out every time there is a call. What would I cut in order to do that? That's a very difficult question, but going through the budget, finding ways where we can be more efficient. You wouldn't want to cut things like recreation that pay for themselves today, so you would have to find other areas where we would be able to find inefficiencies in order to save some resources if we needed to put more money into the public safety budget.
Thank you. That 1 minute goes fast, doesn't it? Same question, Yvonne. Then would you like me to repeat it, or are you okay?
No, I've got it. Thank you. I think it's a delicate, balance. We would have to look at where we're at. We've currently funded lots for public safety. And I did a big push to do that. We had unfunded liabilities, and a big part of that was our staffing for police officers. And we need to have the police officers. We've grown. Our growth has, it hasn't compared with what we've been doing with hiring, and so we've tried to make them as whole as we can, taking everything into consideration. But I think, it's looking at some of these projects that maybe we can hold off on that are important, but need to be held off on. So maybe it's, doing an expansion on some type of a location that we don't really need to do right now, that we might need to want to prioritize our public safety. And then it's also looking and understanding that while we've staffed them, we still need to continue to look at that time and time and time again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Rich, would you like me to repeat it? You okay?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So let's start the hard part first. What would I reduce? Morgan Hill's budget is pretty tight. We don't have a lot of fat. In fact, we have no fat. We have no bone. We have very, very slim margins. So currently, our police department, we have 39 officers on paper. We have 1 in the academy and 2 that are currently going through the process. That will bring us up to 42, which is a fully staffed police department. for our budget. Is it enough? It's never enough. As a retired firefighter, I can tell you there's never enough firefighters. There's never enough police officers. So what I would do in that instance is, again, as Larry mentioned, use our technology. We recently purchased 25 more flock cameras to help reduce the call-outs for our police officers, to make sure that when somebody commits a crime, and 1 minute goes way too fast, but I should just stop.
You should just stop.
Okay.
So I just want to make one other, so I apologize. Each, three others will answer the follow-up for 1 minute, so each question one candidate will not answer. So you're the lucky one. And it is random, so sometimes the first person is first twice in a row, so everything is random. Okay, just so everybody and the audience knows. Okay. So we have question number 2, and this one again is for everyone. Increasing the density of housing in Morgan Hill has increased the need for more parking spaces since many households have more than 2 cars. What can Morgan Hill do to increase parking spaces in residential areas as well as downtown? And this first goes to Yvonne.
You to repeat that question, please.
Okay. Increasing the density of housing in Morgan Hill has increased the need for more parking spaces since many households have more than 2 cars. What can Morgan Hill do to increase parking spaces in residential areas as well as downtown?
Thank you. Well, I think that, first of all, we've been wanting to do is build another structure, but we don't have the funding to do that just now. So I think one thing that we need to look at is, you know, there's a lot of talk going on right now, and we've been talking about the parklets and where there's going to be parking. And I think what's important when we look at the parking is prioritizing handicapped and disabled and parking for seniors. So if you're coming into downtown or you're in a residential area, we need to make sure first and foremost that we have parking that's available for our seniors and for people who are disabled, and even for those who have young children, because you're carrying all of that apparatus with you, and it's difficult to get where you're going. So I think that's something that we need to prioritize when we look at our parking and how we're setting up our parking. And then, of course, I'd love to have another parking structure. I have plenty of business owners who've asked me, you know, when are we going to get another parking structure? And unfortunately, the funding just isn't there now, but we are working on our economic development, and I think we can try and look at ways to encourage, you know, for our developers to maybe help with that in planning where we're going to be having that density come, so that we're looking forward. We always have to be ahead of it. I'm a planner. We've got to be planning what we want to see in Morgan Hill, and those are hard choices to make. But if you don't make those choices, then you get kind of a haphazard outcome. So we've got to make sure that we're planning for what's coming down the line. Is that? Oh, I still have time. Oh, that. Thank you.
Or you can wrap up. Okay. Okay. The question now goes to Rich. Would you like me to read it?
No, I got it. Thank
Okay.
you. I got 90s? Okay, there we go. So the state has mandated that if you have homes or density near transit-oriented development, you don't have to have parking, which is ludicrous. But those are some of the things that are coming down from the state, these unfunded liabilities. I serve as vice chair of VTA, and on their transit-oriented development projects, they have also talked about not having parking. And I give the example of Morgan Hill. We are a transportation desert. So just because you build next to a train station that comes, or a train that comes 4 times a day, or actually it's supposed to be 4 times, now it's still 3 times in the morning going north and 3 times going south, doesn't mean that you can have no parking. We've seen that many, many times. And any time that we've had projects that have come before this council, I have been an advocate to make sure that we maintain the amount of parking that we currently have. Is it enough? We have projects that you can see that there's not enough parking. You see a lot of street parking. So I will always fight to maintain that ratio of parking. Sorry, I went over 3 seconds.
Thank you. Larry, same question.
Thank you. So Parking is all about public transit. We need to move our mindset from being one based solely on cars and one person in a car to moving to a mindset that uses public transit. Now, the truth is, we have very little to zero public transit in Morgan Hill. So what our efforts need to be is on improving public transit, both locally so that we can get around town, and regionally so that we can get to work and get to other parts of the county. But the entire state of California is moving towards getting people out of their cars and getting into public transportation, being able to use our bicycles more and walking more as we do as downtown residents. And so we need to catch up to those times in Morgan Hill. And we need to find ways to support more public transportation and move people out of their cars so that we won't have such a requirement of cars within our residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. John, would you like me to repeat the question? Are you okay?
I'm going to take a guess at the question. Anyway, this is one of the toughest issues. It seems like it's an easy thing to talk about on the surface, but it's not. We have a population that is both extremely affluent, and then we also have a portion of our population which is economically challenged. What the highest density developments are for those that are basically income-based and have income-based needs. They're the ones that need cars. They're the ones that have cars that get around. So we do need to take care of the full spectrum of our community, and it's getting tougher and tougher because the state is saying the very place that we should have the most parking is where they're not letting us put it. So I agree with what Larry said. We have to have a combination of public transportation. And then we also have to have basically an environment where we're going to have more jobs here. So people don't have to have a car and travel only by car, because that's the way we live.
Thank you. Okay, so now I have a question for the incumbents, and then the following question will be for challengers. So for the incumbents, please tell us what you have accomplished for the betterment of Morgan Hill in the last 4 years. And we're going to go ahead and start with Yvonne. Again, randomization.
And I have 2 minutes? Okay. Thank you. So first, I am going to start with COVID. I was on council for 1 year, and then something called COVID hit. And while it was incredibly, incredibly challenging, it was probably the best boot camp you could ever go through. And quickly I had to work regionally and develop deep relationships with people all around. So some of the things that happened with that, I was fighting to get, testing here. We didn't have testing. The Grange helped bringing us testing after hours on the weekends, which we did not have. We only had testing from 9 to 4. I worked with the county supervisors and brought the first vaccine clinic to the cultural center with Supervisor Cindy Chavez. I went and worked with the migrant farm workers. We were third highest in the county having COVID in Morgan Hill community, and particularly in the Latino community. And so I did a number of press conferences to bring awareness to that. We vaccinated 1,000 migrant workers out at the mushroom farm. I did webinars. I didn't really know how to reach everybody, and did probably about 10 to 12 webinars. After I did my first webinar, then we started doing that with our economic development department, and on and on. But some of the other things that I'm really proud of is helping to bring the climate action plan and working with the youth here in Morgan Hill, and working with mothers groups, and working with the Sierra Club to help bring that to action. Brokering the distribution agreement, which you'll now see on the ballot as Measure A, and working with those groups and working with the city to come up with a very creative strategy of how we did that. Getting community funds, $100,000 for our not-for-profits from our...
Okay, we'll go ahead and hear from John next.
Thank you very much. Last 4 years, we've had quite a bit to be proud of. As I said earlier, we've been challenged. We have really been challenged, and we've come out the other end. If I want to use a comparison to other cities, we're doing extremely well compared to other cities. We've worked so hard. I actually sat with former council member Larry Carr. We worked on an economic plan at the beginning of COVID-19, which helped spur staff to really start to look at where we could go, where we can help, where we could focus our resources. So that was very rewarding. I helped put together and run 50 vaccination clinics, again, with the help of Councilmember Carr. We've done so much in this community that we should be proud of, but part of it is, part of what we do is we actually meet with our legislators. I've had the ability to meet with our legislators and try to dig into the residential development issues and try to bring back some of that local control. And I would say that those efforts, as much as you don't see the fruit yet, they're coming.
Thank you. Rich?
Great, thank you very much. So when I first ran for mayor, several of the things that I said I wanted to do is I wanted to fix our infrastructure, increase businesses here in Morgan Hill, and also to bring, with the infrastructure, the capability for Wi-Fi. Now, we all know that COVID hit, but we have seen progress in all of those things. 500,000 square feet of office space or industrial space has been built. We also have had an investment from, unfortunately, a company that's already still here, which could have some more competition, but they've invested millions of dollars in upgrading the infrastructure as far as Wi-Fi is concerned. So we're moving in that direction. We're not going to use COVID as a crutch. We're going to continue to move on because Morgan Hill is the place where businesses and people need to come. I can't do this in a minute.
Good job. You did great. Okay, so for the two challengers, how much do you understand about how the city administration functions? What do you understand about your role to be as a council member or mayor when working with the city manager and staff? Do you only have oversight of city administration, or do you have control? That was a long one, so go ahead.
I'll go first,
Yes.
okay. Thank you for the question. So I'm very familiar with the senior leadership at City Hall. In fact, I help recruit and hire most of them as a former city council member. I happen to think they're the best in the business. We're very lucky here in Morgan Hill to have created an atmosphere where really good people want to come work, where good people want to come do good work, and they're allowed to do that in Morgan Hill. When I served on the council, we were the envy, and people wanted to come work here. The role of the mayor is perhaps a little bit more unique than the rest of the council, in that the mayor does get to set some of the agenda that comes, or the mayor should be setting some of the agenda that comes before the council. Now, most of it is business related. Keep in mind that we are a public entity. We're a business operating in the public realm. And so there are requirements, time requirements, and things that the administration has to keep an eye on and move forward to the council for approval. As mayor, I will serve very similar to a chair of a board in keeping at the policy level when thinking about how Morgan Hill makes actions and makes decisions, working with the staff, not directing the staff. Our system of government is that we have a city manager who runs the day-to-day operations of the city, and the city council serves as the policy-making body under which those policies then are implemented by the senior staff here at Morgan Hill. And it's very important that those roles are kept very, tightly adhered to. You want to swim in your own lane. Council members and mayors are not, they are not elected to run day-to-day operations. In most cases, they're not qualified to run day-to-day operations, and they should not get engaged in the day-to-day operations of the city. They should stay at the policy-making level and working on the issues that come before us and setting policy.
Okay, the same question, Marilyn.
As you all know, I served 8 years as a city council member, but before that, I was 6 years as a park and recreation commissioner. So actually, if you total that all up, I have 14 years experience at the city level. And so I'm very familiar with how the city works and who's who and who reports to who. As Larry mentioned, and I don't really want to repeat myself, but it's not like we're their boss and we tell them what to do. That's the city manager's job, and we do meet with different department heads to get information on different things, and we can do that before agenda items come up, which is very helpful sometimes. So I am totally familiar with how it all works, and I used to say, a person coming on board starts about here. Luckily, I came in here. After 16 years, I'm probably up here on my knowledge of how a city works. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is for everyone. How much have you received in donations to your campaign? Two parts of this question: A, altogether, and B, from builders and developers. Is that okay? So we will start with John.
Well, that's an interesting question because I don't keep track of those things day to day. I would say that right now I have gotten maybe $300 to $400 from a builder. And I guess I should have checked with my campaign treasurer before I got here, but that's about all I've gotten from developers. What was the second part of the question?
The first part is A, altogether, and B, from builders and developers.
Altogether, last time I checked, I probably got about $1,200–1,300. I basically am trying to self-fund.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, thank you. This next, it goes to Rich.
So I've raised about $9,000. I'm looking at my treasurer. And about 13 to, I'll just say round up 2,000 has been from developers.
Thank you. Yvonne, this question goes to you.
So overall, what we've raised, I don't know that number overall. I'm guessing it's about 5,000. It's probably a little bit more than that. And from developers, I have about $2,000 from that. And proud, looking at anybody who.
Thank you. Okay, and Marilyn. She's two. Okay, she got it. She did it. Oh, she had it.
It's not liking me for some reason tonight. I have raised about $6,000, and I have gotten nothing from developers. I am not a single issue candidate, and nor do I have any specific group backing me.
All right, thank you. And you don't get this one, sorry. Oh, okay. You were randomized out. Okay. Yes. Okay. You're welcome to answer then. Sure. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
It's a good question. Yeah, I've raised we all have volunteer treasurers that manage the paperwork and the forms and things. So you might hear some hesitancy in our voices. It's because we don't manage the day-to-day operations of our campaign budgets. Thankfully, we all have really good campaign volunteers to keep us out of trouble with that. I have raised between $37,000 and $40,000. And of that, I believe about $4,000 is from developers and real estate, local folks who operate within Morgan Hill.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. This next question is for everyone. Measure A would change Morgan Hill zoning regulations and prohibit buildings that look like they could be used for storage and distribution centers. Do you support Measure A? This will go to Rich first.
I get two minutes to say yes. Great. Yes, no, I have 2 minutes, so I'll pontificate. When this first came before council, we weren't able to say yes or no to any specific project. And why we couldn't do that was because we are what's called a quasi judicial, thank you, body. What that means is, if we can't be prejudiced, we have to make our decisions out in the open, out in the public, before you at council meetings. So we couldn't say that we were for or against a project, but I could always say that I am not somebody who wants to have distribution centers. I don't want to waste the finite amount of industrial land that we have to have a huge structure and have 3 people working in it. That is not what I ran for when I ran in 2018, when I said I wanted to bring business. The reason why I wanted to bring business is twofold. I wanted to bring businesses to Morgan Hill because when we had the downturn in 2008, we had to provide services. We, the city, had to provide services based on our property taxes. Now, we all know what our property values did in that time. We lost revenue. And I always say, we are not Atherton. We can't live on our property taxes. We needed to diversify. So that's why I want to bring more businesses. And the second reason is so that we don't have to get on that freeway every day to commute. So those are the things that are important to me as far as, and I still have time, so I'm going to keep going, as far as when we're talking about not just Measure A, but businesses in general. We need to have more higher paying jobs right here in Morgan Hill so we don't have to get on the freeway. And part of that also is I'm on Caltrain, and one of the things that I've been pushing for is to get at least that 4th train that was promised with 2016 Measure B dollars, and I'll hopefully be able to talk more about that.
Wonderful, thank you. Yvonne, would you like me to repeat the question?
I also get 2 minutes to say yes.
You get one.
Yes, I absolutely support Measure A. I've signed on your ballot, you'll see, in support of it. That hasn't changed. That was from the very beginning. So as the mayor said, I believe that we need to have jobs here, and I don't want to have, just warehouses where we don't have anybody working. But I also think that, it's important what we do with our land, our industrial land, because we, as Morgan Hill, have suffered from a housing boom, right? I mean, we were the housing community for Silicon Valley, and we are still lagging behind. We have a job to housing ratio is upside down in Morgan Hill. We don't share the ratio that we have in Mountain View and Fremont and Milpitas and all of our northern neighbors, and that's where we need to catch up. So it's important that we look at our land and how it's zoned and what we use it for, and that we get the highest and best use so we can recoup those dollars that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, you are next.
The short answer is yes, I support Measure A. In fact, Rich, Yvonne, and John will all remember, as they supported as well in 2020, before I left the council, I was a council member who introduced an ordinance to ban distribution centers by use in Morgan Hill. So in my mind, Measure A codifies what an ordinance that I passed in Morgan Hill in 2020 with support of my colleagues, and it strengthens it. It strengthens it so that future councils can't change that, and we will forever be a community because of voters voting this November in favor of Measure A that will not allow distribution centers within the city limits of Morgan Hill. So yes, I support Measure A. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Marilyn. You got it.
Okay, got it. Yes, I support it very, very, very much so. It means that we would have to amend our general plan in the transportation area to not allow empty storage units or distribution centers, and I am definitely for that. That's not what Morgan Hill wants to be known as. We do need to bring jobs. We need to bring good paying jobs so people can afford to live in our town. And so my thing is we have to look carefully at how we're going to use the space that's left in the industrial area. I want to bring in small manufacturing that doesn't have, heavy truckloads. Those tend to wear down our road index. Roads are indexed at to carry certain vehicles, and so we have to look at the big picture, and but my answer is definitely yes, I support it.
Thank you. Okay, So we will do one more question before we head on to a 2-minute break. And, yes? Okay. This was actually directed at Larry Carr. You have voted against cannabis dispensaries of any kind while you were on the city council, but now you publicly state that you would be in favor of cannabis dispensaries with certain conditions. Please clarify specifically whether or not you are in support of opening cannabis dispensaries in Morgan Hill.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, whoever submitted it. And my answer remains the same as it was when recreational cannabis dispensaries came before the city council when I served on the city council. I proposed a series of about 10 different items or conditions under which I could support one, and unfortunately at that point the retailers who wanted to sell cannabis in Morgan Hill did not want to meet those conditions, and so I voted against it. Those conditions, I'm not going to remember all 10 of them off the top of my head, but they're things like a certain distance away from schools. You cannot be located within 1,000 feet of schools. It was things like about how they would do their security and how they would tell us what their security plans are. Would they be unionized operations or not? What kind of outdoor advertising? In fact, I recommended no outdoor advertising, so the big billboards that we see today for delivery of cannabis wouldn't be allowed in Morgan Hill. And so there are certain conditions, as there are with any kind of approvals in Morgan Hill, of which I would support recreational cannabis being allowed to be sold in Morgan Hill. And unfortunately, in the past, the folks who were interested in doing it were not interested in meeting those conditions, and so I voted against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich, do you have anything you'd like to state about the issue?
Sure. Do I get a minute, or I'll get 1 minute? Okay, so we as a city can dictate what a cannabis store can do and cannot do, similar to what San Jose does. San Jose, if I am in favor of having recreational cannabis sold here in Morgan Hill, I have been from day one. But we as a council, as a city, can tell a distributor, a store owner, what they can and can't do. For example, in San Jose, they can't have any signage. You can drive past one of their stores and you wouldn't know it's there. You can't have anyone under 18 in the parking lot, not in the store, in the parking lot. Again, this is mandated by the city of San Jose. They have cameras in every store that's in San Jose that's monitored by their police department. Again, those are things that the city of San Jose did, and that's what we could do too. So all those things that you could put on them, the city can mandate. Otherwise, they won't come.
Thank you very much. Yvonne, do you like to speak?
Well, can I just say, I don't have to answer that question, right? It's not, can I say something on the topic?
On the topic,
Great,
yes.
thank you. Okay, so I voted against cannabis when it came to the council, and there were a number of reasons I did then, and I think, you know, what I'll say now is that cannabis is legal in Morgan Hill, and it can be delivered anywhere in Morgan Hill. And, you know, if we were a city such as San Jose, then I think, yeah, that would have been, you know, something to really look at then. It's a cash business. It still is a cash business. It would require that we have a cannabis department within our PD. We're struggling already with our PD. And I can't read my other note here, but there's a lot of reasons, you know, that I think we would have to look at, and where do we put it? I think that's a really interesting question. So where does that go in the community?
John.
Thank you. This is a boomerang topic. It keeps on coming back to different councils. The good news is that means that we've done a lot of research. We actually had the Planning Commission look at where dispensaries should go. And it's not just dispensaries, but, you know, at one time we were exploring the ability to grow in Morgan Hill too. So I agree with everybody here. I was on the fence. I voted no against it. And right now I don't know how I'd vote, because What I really want to do is understand the economic impacts. I have not got a clear response on that. What I want to know is, are we bringing something to Morgan Hill that will cost more to deal with than the benefits we get out of it? Okay, there's going to be all the arguments about should it be around children and all these other things, but quite frankly, it's been said, it's legal. It's being delivered here right now. Matter of fact, we need to enforce the tax collection or the fee collection that we've already have owed to us. So this is an issue that is not over for me. I need to find out more about what the economics are, and I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a 2-minute break. All right, so we are going to go ahead and continue. Our next question is, what is your position on California State Proposition 1, which seeks to amend the state constitution to grant anyone of reproductive age the fundamental right to bear a child or choose to obtain an abortion? Our first candidate will be Rich.
I get 2 first questions?
You get 2 first questions.
Perfect,
It's your
all right.
lucky day.
So, yes, I am for that. I am for I got to step away from the mic. I was told I was breathing too heavy. A woman's right to choose. You know, I don't have another way of putting that. I think that it should be pretty self-explanatory, but unfortunately the way things are going, we have to codify that. Whatever your views are, whatever your political views may be, I still think that everyone has the right to choose what they do with their own bodies. So I won't take any more time and say just yes.
Okay, thank you. Larry, this question goes to you. Please let me know if you'd like me to repeat it.
No, not at all. Thank you. Yes, I absolutely support Prop 1. I too support a woman's right to choose, reproductive freedom, and I'm very glad and supportive that the state of California is putting it into the Constitution to protect that right moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. This question goes to Yvonne.
There's no other way to go. But yes, 100% it's a woman's choice. Being, you know, I've told people before, my husband and I being in the area where we have 3, I don't think it's anyone's business, quite frankly, if we decide to have 4 or not. That's between my husband and I, and those are the only people who should be deciding what happens in a woman's life, is who she decides to share that with. Hands down, no doubt about it, no questions asked.
All right, and our last candidate to answer this question will be Marilyn.
I am also a yes for this. I truly believe in a women's right for choice. I am so glad Governor Newsom has proposed this in Prop 1. I think that it's my body and it's my choice, and it's between my partner, whomever that might be, and my God. So if I am comfortable with it, then I say yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so since we're on our bodies, we'll continue with this question. Please share your stance on the responsibility of local government with regards to public health, specifically vaccinations, mandates, etc. Should public officials set the example for their communities by ensuring they themselves are vaccinated? And the first answer will be Yvonne.
I think that, I mean, this was a learning experience for everyone, but yes, I think that we need to protect our community, and as we all learned, that this was to protect our community. This COVID mandates were not put in place, I always say, for people like me. They weren't put in place for people in my age group. We were protecting those who were most vulnerable, as we should do as a community. That's what a community does. They protect everybody in their community, and the least vulnerable who need help, they're there to help them. So that's what we should be doing, and I think we did a great job. We all benefit from that as well. It's not just niceties that we're doing. You know, infection spread, and it spread rapidly, and it was very dangerous, and that is public safety. It is public safety. That's what we're doing. We're ensuring that our residents are safe, that our families are safe, and we're ensuring people's economic ability to continue to work and be healthy. And so I think that's all I really have to say on that issue.
Thank you. John, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I've got this one. No, I am very much in support of doing the right thing for the greater good. It's through this whole process, we learned a lot about, anti-vaxxers, not just with COVID-19, but also all the other vaccinations that we've traditionally gotten over the years. And we've been able to really push down and stamp out some forms of disease. And this is part of the process of living in a society with other people. A lot of what we said during the pandemic was, it's not about you, it's about the people around you, the people that you could impact by your behavior. So I think it's very responsible for me as a elected official, as a representative of the community, to set an example and get vaccinated. And I did. And I would like to say that there were no ill effects. I'm still here. I made it all the way to the forum tonight. And look around at the success we've had because we are doing the right thing.
Thank you. Marilyn. Gotcha.
I am definitely in favor of being fully vaccinated and boosted. I am, and I do feel it's my personal responsibility to be around my own family, to be in the community, which I'm very active in many things. To me, it's a no-brainer, and especially if you're an elected official. I do feel that there is a lot of fear about the vaccinations, especially in populations that are less educated. And I think it's our duty as an elected official to try to reach out to some of those populations and get them vaccinated, explain to them, especially people that are not citizens, to say there is no police there, I'll go with you, and I have done that with a few people, and I hopefully put them at rest, and they got their vaccinations down at VMC. So yes, it's our responsibility to keep our community safe, and I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. Larry.
Thank you. Yes, I am fully vaccinated and boosted. I believe in science. I believe in vaccines. And yes, I believe public officials should set an example and should tell the public what their vaccination status is. In fact, I believe so strongly about it that I led by bringing clinics to Morgan Hill. After I was done with my term on the city council, I worked with a private provider to bring pharmacists and vaccines to Morgan Hill. The Rotary Club and the leadership of John McKay helped staff those. And we ran more than 50 clinics in Morgan Hill and vaccinated more than 20,000 people in Morgan Hill. And we focused at first on teachers, and it was through those efforts that we were able to get schools back open here in Morgan Hill with kids coming back to classes. So yes, I'm a strong supporter of vaccines. I am fully vaccinated, and I believe public officials should let the public know what their vaccination status.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So this next question is for our mayoral candidates. The state of California has had 6 or 7 years classified as drought. We've had insufficient water for the current Morgan Hill population, yet Morgan Hill and Santa Clara counties continue to hand out excessive commercial and residential permits, adding to this crisis. Would you as mayor curtail this construction until our water situation significantly improves? And we'll start with Rich.
2 minutes. So thank you very much for the question. This is a concern that has come up many, many times, and it makes sense, right? If you stop building homes, you'll stop using more water. But that's not truly the case. Over the last 20 years, our population has grown, by maybe 30%, but our water consumption has actually been flat. And I'm saying this as somebody who sits on the Water Commission at Valley Water. During the last drought, I keep saying I always say the first drought because when I was serving that was the first time that I experienced a drought that bad. But during the last drought, as my position on Valley Water, I said, please, let us not be here the next drought. Let's make sure that we use recycled water. Let's make sure that is, because it's an inexhaustible source of water. And unfortunately, here we are. I am still advocating, and finally, Valley Water is actually using our water ordinance as a model so that they're mandating that their distributor, that their wholesalers also follow what Morgan Hill residents have been doing, so that we're not the only ones saving that amount of water. I lost my train. Oh, as far as the curtailing of housing, we actually have it built into our ordinance that once we reach a certain level, that we will stop allowing permitting of homes. So that's actually already built in to our water ordinance. Unfortunately, I don't know if the state would allow us to do that. Because right now, we have no control. We lost our ability to decide how many homes are built in Morgan Hill, what they look like, how big they can be for the lot size, how much parking they can have. The state, through SB 330, has taken that away from us.
Thank you.
So would I stop allowing building permits due to water? Step one and day one for the new mayor in Morgan Hill is going to be to review the current general plan. I know it's not the normal cycle to update the general plan, but our current general plan has some assumptions that perhaps are outdated due to changes in state law. Things like water, things like the parking question that we had earlier, the fact that our current general plan was put in place when we had growth control and restrictions on growth that no longer exist in Morgan Hill. By updating the general plan, we'll be able to force the state and Valley Water to review and be more accurate with our water needs in Morgan Hill and to be able to share with us what those needs are. And there we would have the opportunity to then challenge whether we have adequate water supplies for permits and building and growth that is happening in Morgan Hill today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this next question is for the three city council candidates. Do you agree with the way the city handles reported abuses of authority and misuse of public funds? What would you change? And Marilyn, you are first. You're good.
Are you talking about reporting to, like, the police department? What are you talking about?
It just says reported abuses of authority. So, do you agree with the way that the city handles it currently?
Okay. I don't know. I guess I don't know the answer to this, but I would certainly like to find out how the city is handling this. I mean, when you talk about these things, first thing that comes to mind is Facebook. I mean, there's all kinds of things on Facebook. But I'm not privy to anything that the city is doing. So I have to decline to answer that, but I would like to know more about it. So I'll listen to the other two.
Okay, thank you. John, go ahead.
Thank you. Provocative question. But I think we can do better. I think what we can do is actually pay attention to what the community is saying when they see something. I think that what we do at the City of Morgan Hill is that we want to be professional, we want to be nice, we want to be cordial, but there are times when we do need to call out, bad behaviors. And so I would hope that in the future, moving forward, if something is brought to our attention, that we will do something about it. And I hope that community members, council members, whoever it is, that are aware of something, let us know so that we can do something about it.
Thank you.
Shelley, can you please repeat the question?
Absolutely. Do you agree with the way the city handles reported abuses of authority and misuse of public funds? What would you change?
I'm going to have to go with Marilyn. I'm not quite sure what, how we handle
abuse of authority. I'm not sure how you mean that question to be, what type of authority in what context, so I too feel like I'm not able to answer the question. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right, where are we here? How would you prioritize actions in support of climate change?
This is for everybody.
Yeah, I apologize. Yes, thank you. It goes to John first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. So we actually basically adopted a climate change plan, but it wasn't something that's binding. It's something that is basically a roadmap for the future. And I think that as we approach some of the goals, we need to actually take a really good in-depth look at the different impacts that we have. I think that Morgan Hill right now is a leader when it comes to climate change. We were one of the first communities in the county to implement a REACH code that reduced or eliminated installation of gas appliances and gas uses in residential development. And I think commercial too, I'd like to revisit that part. So I think that I used to talk to Tony Yulo about, why are we doing the things that we do, where we seem to always be on the cutting edge of environmental issues. And, I said, well, what about, a neighbor who's not adhering to it, or how about an entire country or a state? And he said something I thought was very valuable, and that he said, you have to lead. You have to lead by example sometimes. And I do think that, quite frankly, Morgan Hill, again, is doing a very good job. I do realize that we can do better, but we have a climate action plan that if we use that as a roadmap, we can systematically look at what works for the community at the time. When we can implement it, maybe it doesn't work today, but maybe it'll work tomorrow. But in the end, we all share a planet that we want to have in the best shape now, but also we want to leave it for future generations. And that means, to a certain extent, we may have to give some things up. But I do believe that we need to evaluate the different aspects of the climate action plan before we implement them, because it's a very broad sweeping, broad ranging, and we need to dig into the details at the time we try to implement.
Thank you. Rich, this question goes to you.
Great, thank you very much. 1 minute for climate. Okay, so our climate action plan addresses very specifically the two things that cause the most greenhouse gas emissions, and that is our on-road vehicles and our gas appliances in our homes. By I wrote this down, by 2030, our climate action plan calls for a 35% reduction. And by 2045, zero. In other words, we will be producing zero greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. How do we do that? Well, the low-hanging fruit's already been taken care of. All our street lights are LED. We've switched over to all our electrical power comes from clean sources, wind, solar. But what we need to do is we need to start getting the nitty-gritty, making sure that we avail our citizens of all the things that are available to all the grants and all the monies that are out there, that are coming out there, to make sure that we can change our gas appliances, our gas heaters to electric.
Thank you. Marilyn.
This is a very subject that is very close to my heart. I do believe we need to save our planet. I'm not some kooky person that's saying that. I do believe that the gas fumes from cars and the gas appliances in our homes are all detrimental to our future generations, and we need to do something now. So when I joined the first council in 2008, and Larry will remember this, we were all required to take a class, do you remember that? On how to reduce water and electricity and what our carbon footprints would be. And I think that's something we need to offer more to the public. We need to incentivize people, general people, to listen to what happens if we don't do this, what can we do today? And that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Larry, same question.
Great, thank you. The first thing we have to do in order to lead in this issue is to acknowledge that there is a climate crisis. and that it is something that we all need to take responsibility for, and the city needs to be a leader in doing that. The top priorities we've heard already: transportation and, of course, buildings in Morgan Hill. And there's a lot that we can do in both those categories. We'll need some help from regional governments in doing some of those things when it comes to particularly transportation. But how do we incentivize more people getting out of their cars, getting into public transportation, and those that can't, how can we incentivize more electric vehicles by providing more charging stations and other things. Buildings, it's a way that we can look at growth in Morgan Hill and what kind of permitting are we doing, and we should be requiring that new building in Morgan Hill meets with certain goals. And this is an area where we need to be thinking about protecting open space. Protecting open space is vital to the way that we address climate change in the future.
Thank you. Okay, this next question's for everyone again. A proposed tax in...
Did I get to answer that?
A proposed tax increase on a high-income bracket would increase funds for zero-emission car programs, installation of charging stations, wildfire prevention, and to help low-income people and those living in heavily polluted areas. What is your position on this California State Proposition 30, which would require Californians with an annual taxable earning of $2 million or more to pay an additional 1.75% on their income in 2023? This goes to Larry first, and if you want me to repeat it, let me know.
No, that's fine. So that is Proposition 30 on your November ballots, and I'm in support of Prop 30.
All right. John, you?
Yes, I'm also in support of it. I think that everybody should step up and take responsibility and do their fair share, and I do believe that those with those type of incomes could probably use that 1.75%, whatever it is. It would go a long way to help others. So I do support that.
Thank you. Yvonne?
Thank you for the question. I would support that. I think, as I stated earlier, that we have to help our community. For one, we shift in how we pull the load. And so, you know, I think that it's my duty and my job to help those less fortunate, and I hope that others feel that way as well. And this is a world that we all share. It's going to be a big lift, and I serve on Silicon Valley Clean Energy on their board. I've been there for 3 years, and if we do not do what is necessary to bring marginalized communities and lower income communities along, there is no environmental action that is going to really make an impact. We need to bring everybody along if we truly want to get the work done and reduce our carbon emissions. That's the only way forward. We can't have some people who are, you know, polluting because they can't afford it, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich?
Yes, I'm in favor. Not only am I in favor of Prop 30, I was actually at a press conference with the mayor of San Jose, Sam Liccardo, and members of the IBEW 332. IBEW is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. The climate crisis is beyond crisis. We have to figure out another word other than crisis. We are behind the 8 ball. This is an emergency. We have to do things now. We have to make sure that when my daughter grows up, that she has water coming out of the faucet, that it rains every once in a while, and that we don't have hurricanes like Ian that hit Florida where my mother lives. Wherever you stand on this, it's obvious what we're seeing. I mean, you have to believe your own eyes. So we have to take action. To some people, it may seem drastic, but we are in a drastic time.
Thank you. Okay, this one again for everyone. What is your position on California State Proposition 27, which would allow licensed tribes and gambling companies to run online sports betting on mobile devices? And we'll start with John.
This is one of those things that I'm comfortable with. You know, thank you for the question, but it makes me uncomfortable because I just don't fully understand the complete ramifications, and I don't think any of us do. I think that Every time you turn around, somebody's saying something different. I do believe that our Native Americans have been marginalized. We need to be doing whatever we can to help them. I just don't know if this is the way to get there, because I do believe that there is, from what I'm hearing, and I'm just hearing a lot of stuff, there's a lot of opportunity for fraud, there's a lot of opportunity for abuse. And so until we get something that's very clear-cut, very simple to understand, I can't support that, although it's sad, because I would like to do a better job of supporting some of our marginalized communities. I just can't support that one.
Thank you. Marilyn.
I'm with John on this one. It's a confusing, I think, very much so, the propositions, because you're hearing that, it's big business that is supporting it from out of state, and then you're reading, that it is for in-state, but I am against it. I don't think gambling's really something for us to promote anyway. It could be a fun trip to Las Vegas, but when you start doing it at home, day in, day out on your computer, or your laptop, or whatever, I just don't think that's real healthy. So I would like to know more of both sides also, because I haven't in-depth studied that. But right now, where I stand is it would be a no.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yvonne?
Thank you. Where I'm at right now would be a no, but I too feel like I need to understand this better. But I just think, I'm not really looking to help out of state companies when we're looking at the local tribes here that have been under so much duress. So,
thank you. Okay, and Larry.
Great. So Prop 27 is a dramatic expansion of gambling by allowing online sports betting in California. And once it's online, it's anywhere, so it's not associated with tribes anymore. I don't think we're at a place in California where we should be expanding gambling, particularly online, for anyone in California. The measure does provide for a small fraction of the resources generated, for taxable resources generated to go to things like homeless benefits and things like that, but it's such a small fraction that it really does not make it worth expanding gambling in California dramatically. So I'll be voting no on Prop 27.
Thank you. Okay, this is going to be our last regular question, and then we'll move on to closing statements. And this is for everyone. Measure B would change the city's general plan and require voters to approve any future land reduction plans for Monterey Road. What are your thoughts on Measure B? And we will start with Marilyn.
Okay.
I'm in favor of Measure B for many reasons. I do believe we need to let the people decide, since they're the ones that use the roads that are most being focused on, which is downtown Morgan Hill, until the Northwest extension is finished, until we've had time to analyze the impact of that and the traffic downtown. Right now, I believe we need to let the citizens make that choice, since they're the ones that are using it day in, day out. I know that there are merchants downtown that are very much in favor of it, but having served on the Downtown Association, there are also merchants that are not in favor of it. We did an unscientific survey of our members, and it came out against turning it into one lane each way. So I think it's definitely, it impacts our citizens, so it definitely should be in the hands of our citizens. So I am a strong yes for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. John.
Well, this probably won't be a surprise to too many people, but I'm not actually in support of it. This is kind of two parts to this question. One is I did not support moving ahead with it recently because staff reported to us that it just isn't the right time. Okay, so I agreed with staff. I trust what they say, but what I don't want to do is have the flexibility to do it in the future taken away. I think that there is a huge amount of education that needs to take place so that the community fully understands what the benefits are and what the consequences might be, hopefully for the short term as we transition into a different type of downtown. I do believe that it is an investment in the future if we transition to it, because it will help make the downtown, first of all, it's safer. I mean, if you start to see some of the statistics, I was surprised by some of the issues that happen downtown with traffic. But also, it will create a better place for our businesses, and business equals public services.
Thank you. Larry?
Thank you. I'll be voting yes on Measure B. Now, let me qualify that and tell you that I'm a strong supporter of making sure that our downtown is the place that we all envision it as. We have spent a lot of time and resources, brought a lot of private investment into downtown to create something that is the envy of our neighboring communities in Morgan Hill. And we can't allow that to be destroyed just simply because it has become a thoroughfare for transportation. But perhaps most importantly, Measures A and Measures B, as mayor, I'll be taking a look at, why are these on the ballot? There is something that is going on where citizens feel like they need to go spend their time collecting signatures and challenging council decisions that are being made here in order to put these on the ballot. And we need to spend some time really understanding why that's happening so that we can rebuild the trust in our community so that our neighbors and our residents don't feel they have to go out and put these things on the ballot repeatedly.
Thank you. Rich?
Great, thank you. Yes, I'm in support of Measure B. I was also, when we had the first lane reduction, when we just had a pilot, just to check it, to see how it worked, one of the things I said that I didn't think it would work because Hale Avenue Extension wasn't completed. And I was in the same camp when this came up. However, we didn't have a good traffic study. As Marilyn alluded to, there were thousands of cars that would go into neighborhoods and we wouldn't know where they came out because it wasn't properly done. So we didn't have good data. We had good data this time, and staff made the recommendation not to move forward. I agree with Larry when he says that the citizens feel they don't trust government. I'm not sure why, but I want to work towards that to make sure that that doesn't continue and that we build that trust back. But that's why I'm in favor of Measure B.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and let Yvonne answer this one as well.
Thank you. I'm definitely in favor of Measure B, and I always have been. Well, actually, before it was Measure B, when it first was talked about coming to council, and I'll tell you why people have it on the ballot is because the community feels that we haven't heard them and we haven't listened to them, and we moved ahead and we bulldozed ahead without their input and without their ideas, and that's why we're here. And so that's the process that we need to have. That's what we need to have, more transparency. We need to make sure when we're doing projects that are to the extent and the price that this is going to carry with it, and the impact, that we are sitting there and we're working with our community first. That's who put us here. I only sit here because you put me here, and I only sit here as long as you want me here, and that's it. So we're on a grid. It doesn't make sense on the grid. It's costly. If we want to talk about where we're going to look for PD dollars, there you go. There you go. It was rushed.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to closing statements. I believe we'll listen to the video recorded versions first.
Hello again. This is Brian Sutherland, candidate for Morgan Hill City Council District B. In review, my platform includes public safety for all, a plan for building our local economy, local control of growth, and rebuilding community trust. Because of my business and administration experience and my love for Morgan Hill and all its people, I will make a good council member. I hope you'll consider voting Brian Sutherland for Morgan Hill City Council District B, because I can't wait to get to work. Thank you very much for your time.
Again, I'd like to thank the AAUW and Leadership Morgan Hill for hosting this event tonight and for allowing me to participate, even if by way of video. We have some other serious issues that we need to keep an eye on. The county supervisors are considering closing Reed Hillview Airport because of San Jose's concern around lead poisoning. Those airplanes will be redirected to different airports, San Martin being one of them. If lead poisoning is unacceptable for San Jose, it should be unacceptable for Morgan Hill. There is the electrification of the Union Pacific rail lines that ends in San Jose. The 51-mile corridor from San Francisco to San Jose, they claim, will actually eliminate more than 51,000 tons, megatons, of greenhouse gases on a daily basis. Don't we also deserve that opportunity to eliminate greenhouse gases here in Morgan Hill? I think we do. And then, of course, we don't realize the actual impact of what high-speed rail is going to do to our town if that actually comes to fruition. This is why we need leadership with a new perspective, leadership with new ideas. We need leadership for a change. I hope you'll join me in bringing Morgan Hill together, moving Morgan Hill forward, and making Morgan Hill the best it can be. Please feel free to check out my website, markturnerformayor.com, and contact me with any questions or comments. Thank you, and good night.
All right, we'll go ahead and start over here again. Closing statements.
Great, thank you. Again, I want to thank the organizers of these forums. I want to thank my colleagues that were here tonight. I want to thank all of you who came out to spend a couple hours with us tonight and learn a little bit more. And to those that are online and viewing from home, thank you as well. And I hope that my colleagues who are not here have a speedy recovery. I want to thank my partner, Barbara Cranock, who's here with me tonight as my constant support in all things that we do together. My bio is in the brochure. I hope you'll take a moment to look at it, and detailed information about my positions can be found on my website at larrycarrformorganhill.com. You know, we have so many serious issues that we face. We've only just touched on them tonight. But fundamentally, all of the issues that you've heard about tonight will require experience and leadership. Not ideological grandstanding, but practical problem solving and consensus building. I'm running on a positive message of putting residents and local businesses first. I'm running a campaign based on ideas, my impactful experience, and pragmatic solutions. I bring a lifetime of Morgan Hill values to every decision to be made and every action I take. You see, I love Morgan Hill, all of our complexities, all of our challenges, and all the opportunities ahead of us. I don't have a dramatic family campaign story of overcoming adversity to share with you. I'm just a kid who grew up in Morgan Hill, and I'm running to be your mayor. I humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, thank you very much. And I too want to thank my colleagues, and Larry, I want to thank you. And this is kind of like how it used to be, old times. Yes, exactly. You know, and I also want to thank AAUW and Leadership Morgan Hill. And I also want to thank all of you, and I too want to thank my lovely wife and my daughter, Emma, who's having fun with Yvonne's kids. So thank you for bringing your kids so she would be entertained. You probably sense my frustration with some of the time limits, and I'm not nitpicking. I'm not, but I'm just, you know, you don't really get a good feel of what we are all about with a 1 minute answer. But I've been mayor since 2018, so I have a record. I can come up here and say all kinds of things, and it may sound great, but I have a record to stand on. You know where my views are. Not everybody will agree with a decision that I've made, but at least you'll know why I made that decision. I too love Morgan Hill. And that's why I've served on this council since 2010, because I want Morgan Hill to thrive. One of the other things that we didn't get touched on was our outside activities. I serve on VTA. I'm the vice chair of VTA. I have been able to move the needle in actually getting a fourth lane on 101. It's way off in the distance still, but at least it's on. When you look at the plans, it's actually on the plans. We need to make sure that Morgan Hill remains the squeaky wheel. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Caltrain is another one. It was, you know, we brought up the electrification issue. You know, when I used to go to meetings before COVID, they met up in San Carlos. The map stopped in San Jose. They didn't even think about us.
Thank you. Yvonne.
Thank you all for coming out. I know how busy you are. I know how busy I am. I want to thank my husband, first and foremost. He is probably the biggest reason that I'm able to serve. My girls for giving me the grace to miss a couple things here and there. My parents, who are the foundation of everything that I do, and my family. Everybody up here, you know, you give when you serve. You give quite a bit of yourself, actually. And we do it because we love it. I love it. The impact that I feel when I am able to implement policy and make a change for people is addicting, I will admit. It really is, and especially I think at this local level. What we need is we need somebody who knows when to compromise and knows how to hold the line when you need to hold the line, because sometimes you do. And that's what I've done for you. I've been a champion for Morgan Hill, and it hasn't always been easy. It's actually been very difficult to do many times, but you're worth it. I know that you're worth it, and I want what you want. I want our kids to grow up somewhere safe. I want them to have parks and beautiful landscape like I enjoyed growing up here with orchards and everything. And I wish I could hang on to that, and I wish I could promise you that the growth is going to stop, that it's not, that I could reverse it and I could somehow magically wave this wand. But I can't. What I can do is what I do for you every day. I'm advocating for you at the local level, I'm advocating for you at the regional level, and I'm advocating for you at the state and federal level by talking with my regional counterparts. I'm endorsed by Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. I've been, which I just recently got. I'm very proud to have that. I'm endorsed by our supervisors, Chavez, Cindy Chavez, Susan Ellenberg, Otto Lee. I'm endorsed by my colleague Renee Spring, who's been very helpful on the council, and the entire Morgan Hill Unified School District. And you know, I'm listening. I'm listening, and I'm learning. And yeah, I've tripped a few times.
Marilyn.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everyone, AAUW and leadership. I'm proud to be a leadership grad, so that makes me very happy. I appreciate tonight very much to get to hear the opinions of the other people that are running for different offices. These colleagues of mine are, some of them are really dear to my heart, having served many years with them. So I am passionate about Morgan Hill. And the one thing I do bring, and you can probably ask just about anybody that knows me, is I have an open door policy. If you want to meet, I'll meet with you. I want to hear every side of the story. I'll meet with you, I'll meet with someone who's against it, and then I'll also meet with staff. So there's not just two sides to it, there's three sides of it. And I have often gone head to head with staff. And against something that they are proposing. Then they've done a whole tremendous amount of work on this to bring it to us, and I respect that. But is it what the citizens want? Not necessarily. Is it good for all of us? Not necessarily. So I have to really break that down, and I'm willing to do that. I am retired from the Mount Madonna YMCA. I then took another job and retired from a science foundation here in town, so I have the time. I have the ability, I have the experience, I have the people to back me. And when it comes right down to it, I work for you. I work for each one of you that elected me and those that couldn't vote for me. So I'm here for you night or day if you want to talk about something. Let's get this out, let's hear what you want to say, and let me consider it. And bring it to my colleagues if necessary, and bring it to staff if necessary. So I'm here not for my own glory, but to keep Morgan Hill, the Morgan Hill I love, and I plan to stay in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilyn. John.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming. I know it's been a couple hours. Hopefully you've heard some good conversation up here. Hopefully you've heard how we feel, but I think that we're really just kind of scraping the surface. I do want to thank the AAUW. I want to thank Leadership Morgan Hill. I want to thank my colleagues and those that are on the dais, and this is actually my seat normally when we are in person, which we will start again next week. Running for city council is a very unique thing, and being a city council member is a very unique thing. You have to make decisions that you feel is the best for the community. And that means that at times you'll be at odds with the community, you might be at odds with staff, or you might be at odds with each other. Bottom line is you have to make a decision that's based on what's best for the community. And what I hope we all remember is that we're not just working on the best community for today, but we have to have the vision to remember that there is a tomorrow. We have to lay the groundwork for what we're going to do tomorrow. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we do have to make some of those personal sacrifices. It's very important to me to listen to you. If you want to talk to me, reach out. I will talk to you. If you felt that you've reached out to me, I haven't responded like I've heard, reach out to me again, because quite frankly, if I didn't respond, it's because I didn't know. So I really want to listen to you. I think it's important that we have those discussions. And I think it's really important that we, as council members, and those that are interested in being council members, really give you the benefit of our knowledge and education, because when we make decisions, there are times that will look counterintuitive, but there's a good reason. And I hope that you give us a chance to explain why we feel that it's a good reason. Because the time is so limited, there's so much I want to say I can't, but I do invite you to go to my website at McKay City Council and dig into the details there.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our candidates this evening. I did want to mention that on, I believe, everyone's website, they do have Ask a Candidate button. And so if you didn't get your question answered this evening, because they did come through various ways, people sent them in online ahead of time, some people sent them in this evening, some people sent them in very quickly right before this happened. So we did not necessarily get to answer all of the questions. So please make sure you do reach out to your candidate if your question wasn't answered and you do want to hear their stance on the position. So thank you to all the candidates. Thank you to AAUW, Leadership Morgan Hill, Jenny and Yvonne for sure, and Jason for this evening. And I turn it back over to Janet.
I'll repeat what Sheila said. This concludes our forum for the evening. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience, for being good listeners. And I also wanted to thank two more Sobrato students who were here helping us out, Dylan and Jaden. As Sheila said, I invite you all to listen, to stay and talk to the candidates with any questions you may still have. I hope you've gained some insight into the candidates. Be sure and cast your votes in November. And I also want to remind everyone that the next forum will be on Thursday, October 20th for the Gavilan College trustees here in the council chambers at 7 p.m. Please be sure to attend. Thank you very much.